am welcoming Erin to the podcast today. Erin Marcum, thank you for being with me today on Inspired
Pleasure
Caring.
being here.
I would love to talk about home care. You are an expert in this field and have extensive background. So share with us a little bit about where you are coming from.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I've been in the home care industry for 22 years. I started a home care agency in 2002 and have since been involved in various ways. And I also am the founder of Home Care Pulse, which is the company that measures the quality standards for the industry, measures the satisfaction, a lot of surveys, and the performance of home care agencies. So I've kind of had a pulse on home care in general for quite some time. And I'm also now back involved in a home care agency out of North Carolina. So anyway, I've been around professional caregivers and family caregivers for 22 years. And so it's a topic that I'm super passionate about. Hopefully I can help create some clarity around some of these. I know some questions that we're going to be talking about with hustle culture and so forth, but hopefully I can be helpful with that background. So, and I also have a master's in positive psychology, which actually lends quite a bit to the caregiver turnover or caregiver shortage issue. And I can talk more to that as well. So
I love that. Well, thank you for being here. I don't think most of us wake up and just magically go, I think I'm interested in senior care and helping. I mean, I feel like that was an evolution for me. What led you even to this field?
Yeah, I mean, besides having like grandparents and taking care of, and even later on, I took care of my grandpa. But when I was in college, my wife we were engaged at the time and later on married, and we would volunteer at the senior living centers and so forth, and also what's called the elder hostel programs. I don't know if you're familiar with those in universities, but typically a little healthier senior, and they come and they want activities. And so we would take them around to all the activities. And it was at that point that I was like, I love working with this population and learned so much, and felt like, with baby boomers that they were going to need a lot of help. And it was about 5 years after we graduated from college that I started that home care agency. So I was fairly young. I was 28 when I started my home care company. But it really genuinely came from a love from just being around seniors quite a bit, actually. So that's how I leaped into this, really. So
that really resonates with me. I was the primary caregiver for both of my grandmothers from age, 27 to 37. And it felt like in my peer group, people thought it was really odd that I enjoyed being with them so much and helping them. And then once they transitioned to senior living, just being in that environment, I found, I don't know, a lot of comfort. And I just love also being around seniors.
Yeah. I just learned so much. And my grandpa was like my best friend, and he actually passed away in 2019, but we were super close, and he lived literally 6 miles away. And so it was nice to be involved that way. And but yeah, I love that population. And when I say involved in care, and we can talk about that, there's certain levels of involvement, and I advocate a certain level versus getting too down into the weeds of caring for your family members, because it can cause a lot of other challenges, as a family caregiver.
Yeah, headache and heartache. How do you feel like home care has changed since you've been in this field for so long? What are some of the changes that you've seen?
One of the obvious changes is just technology, and what's available now to help improve the quality of care and to raise standards. And even my own company and what they've been able to do in helping raise the standards of care. Because before that, nothing was available to really measure how it was going in the home.
Mhm.
And so that's definitely improved. Technology's been a big part of that. It's become more of a challenge, as baby boomers have aged, and in the last 22 years, the supply and demand has become much bigger issue than it was when I started in 2002, where our ability to hire care professionals to take care of them is very difficult. We have more 85-year-olds than we have 4-year-olds, so we've got a challenge in front of us that we have to learn how to address, both from a family caregiver standpoint and from a professional home care, assisted living. Anyone who's caring for our elderly population is being able to pivot and make some changes in the way we go about providing the care. I just attended a conference, an AI conference, where there was a robot demonstration that, wow, I was blown away by the ability of this robot to have a meaningful conversation for quite some time. And so there's those changes that we could be seeing, where companionship will become a lot easier with technology. So
I love the idea of what even Alexa and I think the Google Homes are capable of with
yeah,
a little bit of setup. Is that something
yeah,
that you're seeing more and more?
yes. Yeah, like this robot, as long as it has the information, like you could literally download journals into this robot, or history of somebody, and they would be able to carry a conversation. Like, for example, if my mom, who might be aging, was an opera singer or had some interest in, at some level, golfer, whatever it is, this robot can carry on a conversation about those topics that interest them far longer than a human being would be willing to. So it's really interesting what we're going to be seeing over the next 10 years. By 2030, we could have robot caregivers. In fact, I would be shocked if we don't have some semblance of that. Now, human touch, that's the one thing that cannot be replaced. But are there other areas like conversations like that could be not replaced, but compensated, or added to, as far as adding value to the experience in the home?
Absolutely. Something I feel like I wish they were more open to was just weaving through. You don't have to replace or substitute or give up.
Yeah.
That's very triggering language, which
Yeah.
is threading through, weaving through different opportunities that
Yeah.
can create ease or convenience.
Yeah. Yeah. The replacement, that's definitely not the word. It's augmenting, it's providing opportunities for our aging population to be engaged and to quicken their mind. I mean, if you had an AI who could help do crossword puzzles with them to keep their mind sharp, or to do things that, again, humans, our attention span is not like a robot's attention span. It's just a completely different level. And so there's ways you can augment that and make it more interesting. So if I'm a family caregiver, I can actually be the son, the daughter, and engage in a more meaningful way, and allow these kinds of technologies to augment things that I just maybe not even have the bandwidth to do as a family caregiver.
I appreciate that so much. And I think patience is something that often comes up, especially when we're caring for someone who's living with dementia. I just had someone ask me, how do you do having the same conversation over and over again, being asked the same thing? And I guess I'm a little robotic in that way. Like, I'm okay with it, but I'm also not emotionally as attached like a spouse
Yeah.
would be or a daughter would be. So I'm okay asking the same or answering the same thing 58 times.
When there's not an emotional attachment like that, we're a lot better. Like with my own clients, the ones that we care for, I can have those kinds of conversations that they ask me the same thing several times. I'm not as bothered by it.
Mhm.
However, when it's a family member, it's different, and the interaction's different. And again, having even Alexa or some, some different form of engagement where they can continually ask the same question to some form of technology might help with that relationship, so that you can, and also, someone with dementia, their long-term memory is usually better, and so if you're talking about if things from their past, or you're having or have the ability of using technology to bring up their past and talk about those things, it can help.
How do you feel like positive psychology could impact someone who's trying to make this decision with home care? Because I feel like what I hear is we have this guilt and resentment coin that
Yeah,
people keep
yeah,
flipping. And
yeah,
it feels like something else I've experienced is people tend to lose that assuming positive intention, giving people the benefit of the doubt, some tools that maybe they used to be able to leverage, but now when we're in the throes of this caregiving situation, it's just so much harder. So I'm just curious about where positive psychology can help with that. So, what
yeah,
is positive psychology? Let's start with that.
yeah. It's really, in one sentence, it's the science of well-being. A lot of evidence-based science that people don't realize go into positive psychology. It's not what it is not. It's not the science of happiness. Like, it's and we want to make that clear, is that this isn't like how to be happier, although that's an element of it. It's really, why do some people thrive versus why do some people don't, and what are the positive interventions, what are the things that we could do to proactively thrive rather than wait until there's a problem. And a lot of, like, when we are facing that decision on providing care for our family members, if we could back up a little bit, ideally, and apply some of the positive psychology principles in our lives leading up to that, and be prepared for that decision to say, I am not only doing a favor for my parent or my spouse, but I'm doing a favor for myself and my own well-being. And we hear this all the time. It's like putting on the mask, for yourself first before you put it on for others. So anyway, that's the nutshell of a positive psychology. But yeah, applying it to a family caregiver, like, for example, if you take just one theory of positive psychology called the self-determination theory, if we're going to live self-determination in our lives and we're going to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, there's three things that need to exist in our lives in a positive way. And one of those three pillars is autonomy, and creating autonomy in our lives. And when we become, and I'll share the other two that relate with this as well, is that in order for us to create well-being and happiness, we have to create some level of autonomy. I mean, there's a lot of evidence behind this. And being a family caregiver actually can take that autonomy away and rob us of some of those things that really add to our well-being. When we are a family caregiver and we're taking care of their personal needs, helping them change, helping them go to the bathroom, then we're also robbing our relationship, which is the second pillar to self-determination. It's called relatedness, but our ability to relate with all our deepest connections in a positive way. And so when you're doing those kinds of tasks with your mom or your dad or your spouse, that relatedness becomes a negative connection rather than a positive one. That's not really the role that you have been playing for most of your life. And then when you're put into that role, it takes that positive relatedness away. And the third pillar is it's competence. It's knowing that we can, and in positive psychology, we also use this term self-efficacy. It's the belief that we can figure some things out and do things on our own. And when you, again, are pulled into that family caregiver situation, when you're providing those real personal care type services for your loved one, then it can also rob us of our competence. It can rob us because we haven't been trained to do that.
Mhm.
We can stumble. It can keep us from creating greater competence and learning in other areas of our lives. And so just taking that one theory, and there's several in positive psychology that I think we could talk about that would relate to this, but that's one that comes to my mind, that when those three things are missing in our lives, well-being does suffer, and our determination to improve our lives suffers. So
I think it's really hard when we feel so isolated as well. And social media is not connecting us in meaningful or beneficial ways that can help us understand what other people are going through. And like so far, I have not seen many classes out there like, oh, are you a home caregiver? Go to Home U University.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think there's so many factors that play into this. People not identifying as caregivers, people waiting so long until it really is that hands-on level of care that's required. I can just see how it chips away at the well-being, the positive psychology for people
yeah,
because they're not able to just, I don't know, proactively think of, well, this, like if you know you want to go be a dentist, right? You
yeah.
know what steps are going to need to be taken in order to do that. And I just don't think that we've done a great job, and we could be leveraging social media in a better way about like, here are the
Sure.
steps you really need to be
Yeah,
going through.
yeah. Yeah, you bring up something really important. Another side of positive psychology, kind of the foundational acronym of positive psychology that was created by Martin Seligman, is called PERMA. And they've added a V at the end, PERMA, since, or some have. But PERMA stands for positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And the V now is vitality. And
Mm.
again, going back and using even social media in the sense that in what I'm doing, does it hit those now 6 areas in a way that helps enhance my well-being? So is my relationship with my loved one who's in need of care, do we have an engagement or a relationship that's positive and flourishing as opposed to not? And bringing in a professional home caregiver can help put them in the role, right? They don't have all the emotional connection. Put them in the role of taking care of your loved one so that you can lean into the PERMA or the PERMA,
Mm.
and as well as with your loved one. I mean, they can also experience those things. So if I'm a family caregiver dealing with the physical side of family caregiving, not a lot of positive emotions are connected to that. Typically, not
True.
always, and there's
True.
frustration, they get impatient, then you become, and even with someone who has dementia can feel your tension. And I've seen that so many times as I've even had professional caregivers be uptight around someone who has dementia. They sense that, they can feel that, and especially when it's a family member. And so if you could take yourself out of that role and put yourself more in that PERMA role and focus on those things, then I think that also helps alleviate the guilt when you actually have to hire somebody or need to hire somebody to fill that role, because you're doing, again, you're doing a service for yourself and for your loved one, and enhancing the relationship between the two.
I think that's really a helpful way to think about it because I feel like there's these expectations on us that we should be good at pretty much everything. And we just have this hustle culture in our work,
Yeah,
in our businesses, in our neighborhoods. And if we have kids and kids in school, and just like how much pressure even we're putting on the kids to perform and do well. And so I think that if you can spin it a little bit, that it's for both parties, then it feels a little less selfish. but
Yeah.
just in general, just feeling like we're constantly in this grind and hustle of our lives. And then
Yeah.
how are we supposed to continue to care for somebody as it's escalating?
Yeah. There's so much, we have enough pressure as it is, right, in this society. And if we can get the help, and frankly, it takes humility to to accept that help and to allow a company or whatever to come in and provide that kind of help. But yeah, the hustle culture, that's a pretty hot topic right now,
Mhm.
because we are pressured I mean, we can blame social media. That's a huge factor. It's the pressure we're putting on ourselves. That's maybe a result from that, but that we always have to be busy. We always have to be moving. We always, and that as a family caregiver, if if I get someone else involved, then I'm not doing my job as their son or daughter. And that is such a myth. It's unhealthy, to be honest. I mean, it's a real unhealthy thought. So if we could change our mindsets to say, actually, the healthy approach would be to remain in my role as a spouse, as a son, as a daughter, and allow someone else to do the physical side of this stuff, you know,
Mhm.
and provide that kind of level of care so that I can be who I'm supposed to be to this person, and help them.
Yes, I feel like I wish I could just shake everybody just gently a little bit to say, do this before you think you need it, because by the
Yeah.
time people tend to make that call, they are drowning.
Yes.
They are drowning the hustle of their
Make the
life.
decision long before.
Yes. So
Say, when
how
it gets to this point, I'm going to do this, and we're going to put this in action, and have that plan laid out to say, when mom and dad get to this point, then here's, and have your research done and just be prepared, at least from the standpoint where you can start making calls and start doing, getting the help that you need. Sorry, I think I cut you off, Michelle. I
No, I
apologize.
that's perfect. Yes, it's like identifying those deal breakers. So how can we help people identify what are there deal breakers that would prompt them then to maybe call you before it's a complete emergency?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that when it comes to the activities of daily living, it's those things that keep us in our homes. When we start stepping in and we're taking mom and dad to the doctors more often, that's on the lighter side. Like, that's still probably okay to a certain point. But when it starts disrupting our work, or we start seeing some decline, and that their activities, and we have to step in with those activities of daily living, preparing their meals. Um, Also, in the mind, if we're constantly occupied about our parents or our spouse, about what might happen if we're not there,
Mhm.
that's another indicator. When they're occupying our space up here all the time, and we're not able to focus on other things, and other, like, family members who need our attention. Those are all the signs to say, hey, wait a second. We need someone else doing these activities of daily living, these other things that keep them in the home. Because if you wait too long and you've been the one doing it for so long, it's really hard to step out of that. And your loved one is used to you doing it, and it becomes habitual. And guess what? There's some statistics out there that family caregivers can often die before the actual person that they're caring for. In fact, my very first client in 2002 was a severe dementia. She was in this kind of residential community, had some level of care, but we were providing the primary care. And before we got in there, her husband had been caring for her for years, to this level. I could not believe that he was her primary caregiver for the last 3 years prior, through most of the stages of dementia that Alzheimer's. And when we finally got involved, it was way too late. And
Mm.
he passed away 2 months later, before she did. And she was the one with the severe dementia. That was my very first client. And so it happens all the time. We've just got to be aware. We've got to protect the golden goose, I guess, and protect that ourselves so that we can be the person we need to be to them to help enhance their own well-being. So again, like just really being aware of those signs of those activities of daily living that you're starting to step into. Then I would start looking for options.
At least to have the business cards on your desk so that
Yes.
those days when you finally do hit that wall, we'd like you to
Mhm.
call sooner, but
Yeah. But if you wait too long, sometimes you're beyond the reach of home care. And so you want to make sure you jump on that.
I'm a
So,
firm believer in staying home for as long as possible, and then a firm believer of making that decision for senior living
yeah.
when it's needed, because so often from that vantage point, we would see people come in and, oh man, everybody was in, just exactly to your point, such rough shape. The resident, the family members. I mean, in memory care, I would have people move in and then their caregiver, their spouse would end up in the hospital with
Yeah.
pneumonia a day
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandpa, he last 3 months before he passed, I guess it was 5 months before he passed, he had a very short stint. He mostly had home care, very short stint where he went into a independent, or well, it was kind of a combination of independent and assisted living. And when you're around people who are declining quickly, that tends to be your path as well. And so home care, and frankly, nowadays, most people, there's enough resources out there that we can age in our own homes and actually die in our own homes. In most cases. Now, I agree with you. There are some cases where that might not be possible, but you got hospice, you got home health, Medicare, Medicaid. And there's a lot of resources people don't understand with family caregiving that you can get in your states under the Medicaid waiver programs that allow for even respite services to be paid for so that the family caregiver can get a break. And so those are all just great resources out there that people can tap into.
Can you explain respite for the listeners?
Yeah, respite is it's a family caregiver term where especially if you're the one involved in taking care of your loved one, it gives you a break. Respite care is respite for you, like as the family caregiver, you're the one getting respite and retreat or whatever term you want to use to get away for a bit so you can get your mind right and get your kind of mentally back in order. Respite's really important, especially when you're involved on an intimate level. So
I totally agree. And I think that people don't leverage that option enough. It could literally be for an afternoon, or if let's say there's a wedding coming up that you'd really like to go to, but you just feel like
yeah,
there's no way, that would be a good use of respite services. Or if, again, you're just like, I am fried and I just need a break.
yeah, yeah. Yep, it's a very underutilized program in most states, is people don't tap into them. And even from let's say you don't qualify for Medicaid, but you have some means to maybe pay for some respite care. These home care providers, they can help step in and provide that respite care. There's a great resource out there for the family caregiver. I created the website, and it's just a measurement of quality standards for home care. It's called bestofhomecare.com, and they can go there and they can type in their zip code and find a award-winning home care agency, in there. Typically they can find that in their area. There's about 4,000 providers that home care pulse measures. So that's a good resource.
That's fantastic. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate more on the quality measures that they're being measured by, I guess? Like what are
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
standards that they're like, explain more about that program and how that works.
Yeah. So it's really difficult for anyone to go and follow these home care agencies around, right? That's not even feasible. But what they do with that program, a lot of it's satisfaction surveys, the feedback from family members that are receiving the care, and whether or not they would recommend services, and you get some of their feedback on that site. You can pull up some of the reviews. And so it's more of a quality measurement from a pure survey standpoint, and how they have experienced this home care agency. And based upon the marks, then they're awarded certain levels of awards and so forth based upon those marks.
That's brilliant. I know in, again, senior living, we have quality measures that people can meet certain criteria, and then they apply for these awards. So I love that you have created this for home health as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've exited that company since, but I advocate them all the time.
That's great.
Yeah.
What else do you feel like we should be talking about, or what else should people know? Like, is there something, a reoccurring theme that you think people say, I wish I would have known, fill in the blank?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. It's always good as you are seeing maybe not even signs, like your parents say are reaching 85, and you know that they're going to need care at some point. It's having those conversations when they can have those conversations. And sometimes I know it's not possible, but when you can, to see what their wishes are, have those wishes documented so that you can carry those out, because you might be surprised. More often than not, I hear, I don't want you caring for me. Okay. I don't want you worrying about. And if you had those open and honest conversations, then that could also release some of your guilt, because there are a lot of parents are like, I don't want my child caring for me in that way.
right.
And let's start making those plans ahead of time and looking at resources and seeing what's available, so you're not caught unaware when something does happen, because it can happen fairly quickly and it can go downhill fairly quickly. And so if you have all your ducks in a row, then you are also going to listen to their wishes a lot more and what they would really want to see happen in their care.
And that helps with our family dynamics, right? It's not usually people carrying out a parent's wish that causes the discourse. In my experience, it is more having to make those decisions and the timeline
Yeah.
we are trying to create that
Yeah.
causes massive issues in families.
Chaos. It's chaos because you have to do it so quickly. And if that's been kind of, at least, and again, it's never going to be perfect because there's so many things that happen, uncertainties that happen at that point. But at least if you're 80%, 70% prepared, for that moment when that happens, then the stress, it will release some stress. Oh, we prepared for this. We're ready to jump on it, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. How do people connect with you? What's the best ways? What do you
Yeah. So
do you have a book? Because I
yeah,
think
I
you've
do have a book. It's more for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial thriving. It's called Entre Thrive. It's a best-selling book. It was an Amazon bestseller, #1 bestseller, and a USA Today featured bestseller. And so really proud of that.
yeah.
So that's cool. It's like positive psychology meets entrepreneurship and bringing the two together. And so what I've done with the principles in that book is we've created a program called the Breakaway Accelerator program for home care agencies. And so now I coach a lot of home care agencies on helping them keep top talent, build cultures of retention, positive cultures, and accelerate their growth. And so I'm working very closely with the professional side of caregiving and helping them improve, the way they go about providing the care. And again, if you can create a culture of retention, positive culture, it just flows out into the way they care for their clients and those who are in need of care. So I think in the end, I'm helping both sides of the equation here. So if there's home care agencies listening to this, or family members who know of a home care agency that need this, the website is breakawayaccelerator.com. And it's just how it sounds, breakawayaccelerator.com. And then EntreThrive, the book is ENTRETHRIVE.com, and they can go there and order the book if they want to get the book. So
I love that. I think people get confused that it's us and them, or it's right here and over there.
Yeah.
We're one giant ecosystem, people. And I know so many 50-year-olds like myself who are working to be entrepreneurs and family caregiving for aging parents and still working to get kids launched out of the nest. So I think the book is a great resource for nearly everybody I know.
Yeah. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to benefit from it. It's got 8 principles that pretty much apply to anyone. So
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for joining me today. We had a few technical
pleasure.
hiccups along the way. So
Yeah.
thank you for your
Yeah.
patience.
Same.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Aaron.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.